Hello, and here we are. Welcome, Eri.
Hi, Delany. Thank you for having me here.
And my beautiful friend Eri lives in Canberra in Australia, originally from Japan. And we've had lots of adventures together, and she has in fact been translator for me with people in Japan, and that was an amazing bonding experience for sure. Yes. And Eri has many talents. She is a bars facilitator with Access Consciousness, a wonderful process, really lightens the load and clears the head and all of that. And also recently you've jumped into affiliate marketing.
Yes.
Which is really different for you. And I'm seeing that change you as well, like increase your confidence and pushing yourself to, right. Well, it's not even pushing, it's really committing, isn't it? To
yes, it is. Yes.
Getting out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction.
So my pleasure. You're such a beautiful person. And in this series, like, we're talking about these incredible times that we're living in, incredible times where there's so much information, so much disinformation, not actually always from the government perspective of what disinformation is, and just really challenging as we see things, prices rising, petrol prices rising, all of those challenges with food, as much even as what is actually happening and what is being said is happening and what is showing up. It's really quite interesting. And so I started this because I thought, well, like, I know so many wonderful people. We're all creating our lives. So you've got to be an expert. It doesn't mean you're perfect. Being an expert doesn't mean you're perfect. And it doesn't actually mean that you necessarily know everything. But how are you traversing? So my first question, Eri, is more around, like, do you research a lot about under the surface of what is going on? Are you aware of that aspect?
Yes, I do get sent a lot of information from friends and some threads and so on. I don't necessarily read all of it, but I do have that information, yes.
Yeah. And do you research stuff yourself, or how do you deal with that information? So you get information, and if you feel that something has a fair weight of truth in it or whatever, what happens for you? How do you actually,
I do some research on my own, but not a lot. Thankfully, I do have a husband who does a lot of research, and I ask him for some input. But what it comes to in the end is just, I would ask myself, okay, so what do I know? Which information is relevant for me right now? So that's where I end up, really. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. What information is relevant for me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I mean, there's the main media and the other side of information, and they both seem sometimes not too credible for me. So yes, I think what's relevant for me is a great thing to look at.
Yeah, I too, I resonate with that I think it's one of the key things about this time, and what's required is an increase in the trust in our own intuition and our own knowing, and I even had the experience yesterday where, pardon me, my partner was saying something, and I thought, is that like something didn't kind of resonate totally about it? And I was like, is that true? Or is that, and I said to him, is that true? Or is that just like a whole pile of stuff? You know, let's check energetically. And I was amazed because when I checked energetically, I really got that it was true.
Right.
Whereas logically, I was thinking, oh, that feels like it's not. And I was like, oh, wow. And what I loved was the moment that I did that, there was no resistance. There was no reaction to the information either. It was just like, oh, and a real peace.
That's very powerful, isn't it? Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you experience? Yeah, what's your experience when you actually really tap into what you know and that energetic resonance? You know, what do you feel? What does it change? What happens?
Yeah, so what happens? It's very similar to your experience where when I tap into it and see if, okay, so that part is relevant for me, or that's, you know, let's just leave that for now. There's a sense of like relief, and also in a practical sense, I can just get on with my life rather than, you know, bogging myself down into like worries and so on. Just, yeah, being able to get on with my life.
Yeah. And that is a choice, isn't it, of how you're creating that then.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yes. When I get into like worries or doubt, then my life seems to just stop there and just get distracted into this, the world of worry, which doesn't really bring anything.
No,
No.
doesn't create, does it?
Yeah. No, the creation stops. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I find. And for me, it happens extremely quickly now. It's like, it's in your face, you know, the level of, if I'm going to go down, then wow. And if I'm not going to ask questions, I just want to clarify, like, it's not necessarily about, right, I can't feel sad, or I can't feel
No.
down, or whatever. But it's more about, am I going to sit in that, or am I going to look at, okay, what is this? Like we were talking before we started recording, you know, I felt sad this morning, and it was a matter of looking at it. And I pulled a card about emotions, about how they're not good or bad, or they can give you information. And so it was like, oh yeah, you know, like, okay, so what is, how much of this is, there are some things that I can feel sad about, but a whole heap of it wasn't mine. And it led me to that space of realizing, hang on, I've got a lot of like energetic hooks in me, draining energy or altering my energetic field. And it also made me realize, oh, hang on a minute, I have been a little lax here and there with that.
Wow. Yes. Yes, I am very grateful for all these the tools that I have learned, and but I have to apply them. Especially in this climate. Yes, application is the key.
I love that.
I do forget. Yes. So yeah.
And I think for me, that's what's making me reach out to people and talk with people, because it's like, you know, we all know stuff. We all know a massive amount of stuff. But if we're not interacting, and we're not practicing that, we're not applying it, then what do we need to do? And I realized for me at this point, I've had months and months of quite, and the most isolated I've ever been in my life. Wow. You know, and in the way of, not talking to a lot of people, not interacting with a lot of people. and that's fine. But I'm now at a place where it's like, and it's been great actually, and it's given me so much of myself and awareness, etc. But I'm now at a point of, hang on, I really need to engage.
Yes. Just what came to my mind then is that you haven't been interacting with people, but you're in this beautiful place and space where you can interact with other things like nature, and that's, I guess, is a very energetic plus for you.
Yeah. Actually, talk a little bit about that, because I know your connection with nature is really vital.
Yes.
To you.
Yes, sure is. Yeah, I often go for a walk on my own, and that really seemed to revitalize me. So yeah, I can keep going, and that also gives me the energy to interact with people.
Yeah, I think probably I've done so many years of that out, that interaction with the outside, that it's been this couple of years of really, there's been the physical stuff that was the catalyst, but it's really been about that. Hang on a minute. What if it's not about everybody else?
Yes.
And what if it's not about all of my interactions? Where am I then? So that's really interesting. There's something with when you talked about how it vitalizes you, because when you're walking, you're actually really interacting, because I've seen your little photos and you do some amazing photography.
Thank you.
Of insects and all of that. So talk a little bit about what goes on with that. Okay,
so all my life, I think I'd spot things. For example, while I'm driving, I'm looking at the sky, the beautiful sky, or oh, look at that bird. I can just see all these things just come into my vision, whereas some other people that I might be walking with may not spot them. And it just resonates with me, all these, I guess, the energies that all these little insects are giving me. And, I get drawn to them. And so I stop and just talk to them for a little bit, and then, keep going. Yes.
So that, to me, is also like, there's a few things in there, but that talking with the animals.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
It's especially with the birds, when I'm walking, and if there's a bird on the footpath, I don't wish to disturb them, so I just go, I talk to them saying, I'm just going to pass beside you. I'm not going to attack you or anything. So, and then they seem to be listening, and then I pass, and then I just go, thank you. So that's the sort of conversation I have, for example.
Yeah. I really love that. I do something similar, and it's leading me to, because I do talk to the birds, but not, I've realized just from what you're saying that, there's more I can do. I have it with our bees. I have never had such a outrageously close connection with the bees before.
Wow.
I'm often in the veggie garden, and there's there's sunflowers and stuff, and I'll have 8 bees flying around me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're flying really, really close. In the past, I really loved bees because I love honey, and I love bees, but I would have that like, whoa, but I'm getting more and more where I'm not even going to whoa at all. They're just around and they land on me in the bath outside. And so I wonder what else is available with our interactions with animals beyond just the dogs and the cats.
Yes, and the plants. Yes.
Yeah. So that is like another aspect of sustaining, isn't it?
Yes. I know.
Sorry.
I recall you listening to the wind when we went for a walk once, just, and you got so much information from it. Yeah, that fascinated me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what we can play with. Like I know of a friend of mine in England, she does not get bothered by flies. In fact, she really appreciates flies and talks with them and stuff. And I've had some amazing experiences here with flies, because as an Aussie mate, like seriously, the flies can just it's like, and it did, like for a part of the season, it was getting a bit annoying here. And it doesn't mean I haven't killed any flies. I have to admit, I have killed some flies. And my whole appreciation for them has changed, and my interactions with them. Regrettably, I still am a murderer, of course.
Yes.
I've got to admit it. But for the amount of flies that I've interacted with and the amount I haven't killed, I'm doing really good. And I do spend the time actually, invest it in communicating with them. And we have these flies where I've had the experience of, like, at the end of the day, coming down here to the office area, and there's 4 of them waiting for me to let them out.
All right.
I've had like many times now.
Yes. I have a funny story with flies. I don't mind flies coming around my face. If they come, I just let them fly around. My husband doesn't like flies around him, so he's always showing them. But the flies come to him. They don't come to me. when we're walking side by side, they all go to him. So that's funny.
It is. Look, I had a great one day where we're putting up some chicken wire, possum proofing one of the gardens, and that was hilarious, because there were these flies came around, and I really, the sun was beating down, all of that, and I said, oh, say, if you're going to be here, like, at least contribute. Right. And the next thing, the thing that had been really difficult and was not working, all of a sudden just worked. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is really freaky stuff when it shows up so instantaneously. So there's so many things in this, isn't there? Because there's that element of adding playfulness to our interactions with the animals, isn't there?
Yes. And like connecting, it's great that as soon as you ask the flies, your task went smoothly. Some people may not even connect that to the flies, but you being present, you can see what contribution they've been to you. And I think that's a great piece.
Yeah, definitely. The whole presence thing, everything I read, everything I'm studying, everything I'm reading, like whether it's about the pleasure stuff, whether it's about business or whatever, it all comes back to this, to being present. Mm-hmm. And certainly traversing these times.
Yes. Just talking about that, I know you are aware that, I sometimes say I struggle with being present, but what question came to my mind is that really true? Am I actually being present? And yes, I am. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You are definitely someone who's present a lot. You know, I've experienced it with you. It's like, it's really interesting, isn't it? That because if we come back to this, like this, us being present, us being connected with the earth and the other animals. So really what we're talking about is presence and no separation, you know, which is what happens when you're really present. It means that the barriers are down. And so this is where that peace comes from.
Yes.
No matter what's going on around us. And for people who, you know, Nelson Mandela in jail for years and years, that's what kept him going. You know, people who have traversed incredible, you know, hardships, etc., incarcerations, all those things, you know, have had to be present.
Yes.
Quite a breathe.
And also associated with that is having the gratitude for whatever is going on that's giving us the awareness and so on. You have taught me, you know, this gratitude for things, and we've been exchanging gratitude list and so on, which has been actually wonderful.
It's very powerful. What Eri's talking about there is an exercise of just three things you're bragging. We brag. Three things that was achieved. Yeah, it can be very small, very big, doesn't really matter. Three things we're grateful for, and three things we desire, you know, like what we'd like more of. And it's really simple, but it is a contribution, isn't it?
Immense, actually. Yes. I have suggested to some of my clients to actually do a gratitude list, you know, on their own as well. And that seemed to really have a great, you know, positive effects.
Gratitude is immense. I mean, there's a lot of documentation on that even too, you know, the power of that when people come together and miracles are created. It's never created without that energy of deep gratitude.
Yes.
You know, it is an essential component of all creation and of having peace as well as prosperity, because being grateful actually does build prosperity, doesn't it?
Yes, it sure does. And we started the exercise in the middle of the pandemic, and I think that also kept me going in that madness. Yes.
Yeah, it's just that anything that is that centering, and I guess that's the big theme of what our conversation has been today, is about practices that are simple, really simple, and yet profound, and the outcomes generated far outweigh the description of what we're doing. Like that act of being present with nature, what that creates, what that adds, you know, the magic that adds. And one can go, you know, about the fly story, one could go, well, they had nothing to do with it. But you don't know. What if it did? Yes. So where is the, you know, like what is the, like acknowledging that leads and contributes to something else. And to me, anything that is building us to a space of joy and loving and caring about ourselves and feeling good about ourselves as well as our life, that is what's required for us to move forward. So in closing, what do you reckon about the future?
Well, future,
What's your
I'm sorry, I just missed the last bit, maybe the internet connection.
No, just about what do you think about with the future? What are your what would you like to leave people with today?
Okay. I like to leave people with, like, future is what you create, what you'd like it to be, and you create your own future, whatever is going on.
Totally spot on, and just leaving with that power of 3, hand over the heart. The first stop, hand over the heart. There is a power in that connection with the body. Breathe, slow everything down, and that slowing down is really key in the nature connections, in our connections with, in interactions with everybody, like slowing it down, giving things space, and being grateful.
Yes, relax.
Biggest contribution. And then from there, you can ask questions and you can, okay, what's going to be the best thing to do next? You know, it just beautiful. Thank you, Eri. This has been delightful. Well done.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.